validation rule to ensure that the values of the less than length column are either 30 or 60. Now we want to do something called a table validation rule, which will determine the validation of the dates as they compare to one another. And because it takes two entries, two values, one for this column and one for this column, to make that comparison, it's called a table validation rule, meaning that it's not just one single field that we're evaluating. We're evaluating this field as it compares to this field value. And to set that kind of a validation rule, you do it through table properties. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have an individual field validation rule as well. So in this database, for example, there's already a field validation rule for both of these dates that require that the contract start date had to have occurred no further back than January 1st of 1900. And so if you go here to Design View and you click on the start date, for example, you'll see that the date value has to be at least January 1 of 1900, and that would have been a very long contract. So there is individual field validation rules on both of these, but what we want to talk about is how the two compare to each other. So for example, I don't want to be in a situation where a person could accidentally type 2014 here, like that, and now I have a contract that starts in 2014, but it ended a year before. That makes no sense. So I want to make sure that they don't accidentally type a value here that is somehow bigger than a value here. And so I'll undo that to get us back to what we started with. And then let's go to Design View, and to set a table validation rule, it's not down here like it was on the field level validation. To do a table level validation rule, you click up here on the Design tab in Table Design View, you click Property Sheet, and then you'll see a validation rule spot over here. Now, to do this, you're not actually comparing, and you're not setting out specific dates. You're just saying one date entry has to be less than or equal to another date entry. And to do that, easiest way to do it, in my opinion, is to use the expression builder. So you click on the validation rule property, and then click on the ellipsis to start the builder. You'll see a list of the fields that your table has to offer, and these are the two that we're interested in. So I'm just going to double click Start Date, and Start Date, whatever the value is for any given record, that value has to be less than or equal to, I guess you could conceivably start a contract and end it on the same day. So Start Date has to be less than or equal to End Date. Now when you do that, right, whenever you do a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, you always put the inequality first followed by the equal sign, and there's no space between those two. So it's start date less than or equal to end date, and then OK. So there's your syntax to test the values, and then of course similar to the field validation rule, you put a validation text in here to indicate to the person that if they do violate it, then they need to go check the dates. So a lot of times I'll just put something like double check, or please check your start date and end date, something like that. So that prompts the person to go take a look and see what they've done. Once you've done that, then you can close the property sheet if you want. Same idea as last time. I'll save the table, and it's going to tell me that the data integrity rules have changed. I say, okay, that's fine, go check. And then I'll switch out here to datasheet view. And now when I get into here and I change this to 2014, what you'll notice is that it'll let me exit the field. As long as I stay on this record, then it won't trigger. Because right now this record is still being edited, so it doesn't have an updated value to compare yet. But as soon as I try to move down to the next row or try to close the table or something like that, that's going to trigger the save command for that record, that's what's going to trigger it to run the test. And so if I try to click on another row, then it's going to compare the two and say, hey, wait, you can't do that. So you click OK, and then again that would prompt you to go up and check and make the correction. In this case, I'll just press the escape key like that, and all is good. So that's a table validation rule.